Hey, friends, and welcome back to the Tea and Takeaways, a therapist point of view. Today on And Just Like That, Season 3, Episode 1. So, let me tell you, I have always loved Sex in the City. I was probably a little bit too young when I first watched it, but as soon as I did, I was hooked. And as far as a little self care came along back in March, much needed self care. I started to watch the whole series again from the beginning. Sex in the City, season one, episode one. And I've watched all five seasons, and then the two movies, the documentaries, and then the first two seasons of And Just Like That, not even realizing that season three was just around the corner. So I finished it about a couple of weeks ago, and now I'm so excited that season three is finally here. So I'll just be giving you a little sprinkle of the therapist insight because I can't help myself, but I am very excited to go into it with you. So let's get started. Starting first, of course, with the one and only Miss Carrie Bradshaw. So, wow is the first word that comes to mind. Absolutely gorgeous. Not just her, but more so her house that she's living in all by herself. We'll get to that. So, the house, the architecture, the molding, the space, the lighting, absolutely stunning. And by New York City standards, because I live so close to the city, a mansion that I don't really even know if it's real. I'd like to know if it's a real house. But all to say, a huge house for such a little lady. And my first thought was, is this big money that's paying for it? And the second thought was, why is she living there all by herself? And yes, we know the reason why she said she's living there on her own as she waits these 5 years for Aiden, but I really don't quite understand it. When that kitchen alarm went off, it got me a little bit anxious. It startled me. And when she fell and said, I've fallen and I can't get up, literally laughed out loud. And it also had me thinking, but wait, what if you really couldn't get up? I mean, she's not a spring chicken anymore. She looks great in her 50s, but if you fall and you break a bone and you're by yourself, what do you do? So I'd be flipping out if that happens. And also, I'd also be scared if I was a big house by myself and then an alarm is going off and I don't know if somebody's in the house. I don't know if that's just a me thing. Clearly, she didn't have anything to worry about, but living in a big house, I think, can sometimes be isolating, not just physically, but I think emotionally. And clearly, it concerns her friend Anthony too. We'll get back to him in a little while. The whole idea of waiting these 5 years for Aiden, I don't know. I feel some type of way about that. I love the love. I love the connection. But to press pause on half a decade, like, can't you live your own life and then see what happens in 5 years? I hope that's where she gets to because obviously she started thinking at the end when her voiceover came back. And I love in true Sex in the City fashion. And she asked herself, what did she get herself into? And in my head, I was like, finally, like reality setting in, the bells are going off. And I'm just so glad that she's asking herself that question. So, clinical takeaways. Sometimes the dream scenario about our dream life doesn't feel quite dreamy when we're actually in it. And as I've gotten older, the older we get, I have seen our capacity for grace grows. And we really saw that in Carrie in episode one. But so does, we hope anyway, what grows, so does is our ability to know when something doesn't sit right, right? And our ability to forgive, which I also appreciated that she did. So, it's interesting how it went into like the emotional safety, as I mentioned before. And is it her choosing love or is it fear really letting go? And while independence can definitely be empowering, we want to ask ourselves, when does solitude start to feel like isolation, just being in a big home by yourself? And obviously, she's always with her friends, but I don't know. There's just something there. And I'm glad that, well, I hope that we're going to go back to it in the upcoming episodes. All right, let's move on to Miranda. Miranda is, well, still Miranda. She's still oversharing. She's still hooking up. And now she's gotten entangled with Rosie O'Donnell's character, which, spoiler alert, is a former nun and a former virgin until she met with Miranda, that is. And it made the entire storyline both awkward, but also great because Rosie O'Donnell was just really, really, she nailed the part. But this whole storyline did make me wonder about Miranda. Is she exploring or is she avoiding? Miranda had a very messy story in season two, and there's a difference between curiosity and chaos. And it's just interesting how it really is a repeat of like back in her early 30s where she was just dating and hooking up, and now she's in her mid 50s. And it's not that to say that she shouldn't be dating and hooking up, but it's just so like it happened so fast. Just like that. And then she finds herself in this predicament. So I can't also help but notice that her friends don't say much about it. And I just wonder what their opinions are, even though the one liners are hilarious. But I just wonder what they really think, or have they just come to accept Miranda for who she is, right? So, clinical takeaways: reinventing yourself is wonderful. But can sometimes be messy, and sometimes that's okay. Sometimes we do need both, whether you're rediscovering your sexuality or maybe it's your spirituality, your sense of self, your sense of growth. It rarely looks graceful. There's always some messy middle, but there is beauty in that mess when you're honest about who you are and about what you need. And I just hope that Miranda reaches that more quickly than later. Moving on to Sema. Sema's whole storyline cracks me up. It's so Hollywood, it's so dramatized, but that's what makes it good, right? She talks about wanting proof that her boyfriend loves her, and then he swoops her Hollywood style, like off of her feet to share like the film with her, which felt like something out of a movie because. Well, it was, but I found myself wondering, does Seema really want him? Or does she just want the idea of love? Or third choice, option C, does she just want reassurance that she won't be alone? And I started thinking, by a certain age, we should have more clarity like on what we want. Is it just the chemistry, or is the presence and peace going to mean more? And it's so interesting that those insecurities still live in her, and she still wants these acts of grandeur. But I love that even though she got it, she still was able to put herself in first place. And that's my clinical takeaway. Any age can bring up insecurity, and the older we get, the more we start to realize that again, like these validation doesn't come in these grand gestures, and we value partnership, presence, peace, all of those things. But I wonder, if she were a regular Joe Schmo, right? A regular girl living in the city, would she have said no right then and there on that day one? Or would a regular girl be so caught up in how do things look? Because really, that's all social media is about nowadays. Like, how do things look to the outside, that we would have maybe hung on to that a little bit longer and then finally put ourselves in first place? If you agree, if you disagree, let me know in the comments, because it was interesting how she didn't want to feel insecure and she wanted this big thing, but she dropped him like that. But she showed that she also did that in the past season as well. So go Sema, love the look, so dramatic. I'll take it. Moving on to Lisa and Herbert. Their scenes were hilarious. And by the way, I want to be her when I grow up because she's just so glam. She's so ambitious. She's a true boss mom. And still, I don't know how, finds time to cook for her family. I mean, even with multiple businesses, I don't make it to the kitchen on most days. I appreciate Austin. I just have to name it. And I know there's a lot of feelings around this, but I do appreciate how the writers and producers are being more intentional about adding more of a cultural perspective to the show. And I'll leave it at that. And I also appreciate Herbert's storyline, asking if he was still cool. And obviously, developmentally, we go through that in our tween years and in our teen years. But it's just funny that sometimes that does come up when we get older. Aging doesn't come with a manual, and we do go through so many life transitions that sometimes we can wonder, are we losing our spark, right? Am I still cool? I mean, I think I'm still cool, but my tween son sometimes disagrees, sometimes very loudly. But staying cool doesn't mean fitting in with the next generation, right? It just means about evolving, but staying true to the person we are, but evolving with the times, not with the trends, but where we are within the times, being unapologetically you. And I just thought that it was very cute, and I appreciate how Lisa supports him, even though she's got her own thing going on. We'll dive into that that more so, I'm sure, in future episodes. Now, Anthony. Anthony always cracks me up. I love that he's been, a staple to the whole brand and series. Um, Anthony was very vested in Carrie's relationship status, the waiting, the fairy tale, the Rapunzel vibes, as he said. He didn't hold back, but really, does he ever? And while it felt a little bit nosy, he did say what so many of us were thinking, right? It's beautiful that Carrie and Aiden reconnected, but waiting 5 years alone in that beautiful brownstone, I personally can't handle it. So obviously, despite it being awkward, I did appreciate the way that Anthony, not the way, I did appreciate Anthony calling it out because it felt like the one moment of true honesty in Carrie's world because everybody was just going with it. And you could tell that he wasn't trying to be mean. He was just worried for his friend. But what I appreciated more so, my friends, is when he did apologize, when Giuseppe, I love that he's in the show, by the way, when, he called him out on it. And when Anthony did finally apologize towards the end of the episode to Carrie, what I greatly appreciated is the way that she accepted his apology. Very mature on his part, but so much grace on her part. And I think that part of getting older is, and we miss this when we're young for whatever the reason, is that we do allow grace for other people. At least we hope that many do. And that was just really nice to see. So, takeaway. Healthy relationships include truth telling. And sometimes that does mean saying the uncomfortable thing because you care. However, as the old saying goes, it's not always what you say, but it's how you say it. However, because Anthony is so direct and blunt and in your face about it, it also shows, I mean, he can be like that with anybody, but it also shows that he has a true friendship with Carrie. And hopefully, all of us have at least one person in our lives that do that, maybe with a little bit more TLC, but I did just appreciate that from him. And I hope that it was like a little bell or a little tickle to Carrie's inner voice, because sometimes we can easily lose ourselves when we're caught up in the romance or in the drama or in the work or in whatever it is that we're caught up in. So did appreciate that all the way around. And obviously it did hit home. And we see that in the way that the episode ended. Moving on to Charlotte. Charlotte, I always thought she can be a little annoying, but I adore her. And if I could choose to dress like any of them, Samantha included, I always chose Charlotte. I just love, there's something like about her style, the classic, the elegance to it all. I've always loved that. So if anybody wants to send me clothes, please, I'm all for the taking in Charlotte's style. So in this episode, the dog situation again cracked me up. If you've watched some of my other videos, or if you're in tune with the Free to Be Mindful podcast, you know that I have a certified therapy dog who's a golden doodle named Ollie. He's not only my colleague at work in the therapy space, but he's also my third child. So I appreciate the love for her dog in very New York City fashion. And while the scenes with the dog they're very sweet and they're very silly, what stood out to me the most about Charlotte is that she continues to be that friend, like that cheerleader friend who's going to show up, who's going to support not only her friends, but even her dog without question. And even when she was just like, "Ugh, maybe I'll give in a little bit," she still like held the space for the lady, even though she said her right and said, listen, it's not even my dog, right? So I love to see that happening. So the takeaway here is that friendships, yes, they do evolve with time, but so do our roles within the friendships. And I feel like Charlotte represents like that security, right? Like that's that home base and that emotionally consistent friend who is always going to be reliable, even when she does have her own opinion, and she's always going to be that cheerleader on the sideline. So I appreciate that attunement and that she's always like that lifelong friend that Carrie has. So I am going to save Aiden for next time because I just want to see more of what happens. But that whole phone situation and how he wanted things on his terms, but then when she calls, but really he still has a son. I want to get into the mental health of the son, maybe depending on what we get. Have some thoughts, but we'll save those for later. But some random thoughts for right now. I thought it came to mind when Carrie was waking up in the middle of the night and when Lisa was waking up in the middle of the night. They were a little hot, they were restless, they were overthinking. My first thought was not like, oh, are they anxious or anything like that? No, my first thought was, is this menopause? Is this menopause knocking on their door? Because it's a real thing, folks. So I don't know if that was done with that intentionality, but I appreciated that lens. At least that's what I took from it. As far as the fashion and the lifestyle, I mean, sure, it's wild, but it's also Sex in the City or and just like that. Charlotte walking her dog in her heels, Sema looking straight out of Hollywood all the time, the wainscoting and the chandeliers in these New York City apartments. I wonder, like, that all can't be real, right? It's a city after all. And of course, Carrie's huge hat while walking in the park. Insane. And yeah, maybe not all of it is realistic, but that's what the brand is all about. And I love that they kept true to that. And I love it. So all in all, again, love seeing these women grow older. I love the messiness, the falling in love, them questioning things and trying things again. And I really think that that's the essence and the real magic of the show. It's not perfect, but it's really what makes it great with a little sprinkle of glamour and Hollywood and Sex in the City. So, major takeaways. Sometimes love does require patience. Yeah. But that patience shouldn't cost you your peace. And we saw that in Sema, but I wonder if we're going to see more of that in Carrie. There's a difference between Carrie being emotionally available and putting her life on pause. And I don't think that loving someone requires you to wait in a waiting room, and you can live life in between. Let's see if she chooses to do so. And the hopeless romantic in me keeps thinking, can't just Carrie get a break? I mean, she lost big and now she has to, found Aiden, but now she has to wait for him rather. But if we think back, she has gotten many breaks and she has had many highs and many lows and many loves. You can almost say she's led so many different lives, but the fact that she even reunited and connected back again with Aiden after so many years is amazing. It's just going to be really interesting to see how it goes. And can she again live her life in between it all? So tell me, are you team Carrie? Are you team Aiden? Are you team this beautiful, gorgeous mansion that she's living in by herself? Should she be waiting? Would you wait a whole 5 years? Is silence in friendship a sign of respect and a sign of true friendship, or is it avoidance in some way? And who do you find yourself relating most to out of all of the characters? For me, in this episode, it was probably Charlotte. I defend my dog. So leave your thoughts and comments or DM me below wherever you'd like. If you love this, I will be doing it for each and every episode. So subscribe and share it with the friends because this is the stuff that I live for outside, of course, of the therapy space. And just like that, we're back. I'll see you soon.